Fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday, after listening to Prime Minister May's assessment of the state of the negotiations,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are ready to proceed. Thank you.
We can escort him. Yes, he's gone for him. Uncle MC.
Could you kindly bring the witness, please?
It's not easy for me to call him witness. I have to call him Uncle MC.
Mr. Chairman, we will call him Grandpa MC.
Council, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Welcome back, Grandpa MC. We have just agreed that we would be calling you by that name. No offense. Welcome back, sir. Before the break, we talked briefly about the constitutional history of the Gambia from the 1960s until the Republican Constitution of 1970. We've also talked about the role you played in that history, in particular, the role you played in the negotiations for Gambia's independence in 1964 at Marlborough House in London. We've also talked about the various ministerial portfolios you held up to 1990. We also discussed the relationship you had with the Gabriel Singate family. And lastly, we talked about the coup d'etat of 1994 and how you came to know about that coup d'etat. We're now going to take it from there. I ask this question, sir. How did you feel when you heard that Edward Singate was one of the coup leaders in 1994?
I felt very, very disappointed because of what I know about him and his family in the past as well as at the present, at that present moment.
How did you feel about the fact that at this stage as an elder statesman, you have made an effort over a period of 30 years to ensure constitutionalism and constitutional government in this country? How did you feel when you realized that that order has been overthrown? How did you feel about that?
Oh, as a politician, as someone who has contributed his little bit, I felt devastated that we have been taken back, or the country, development-wise, progress-wise, has been taken back decades. And I believe that at that time that it will take us more than 50 years to get back to where we were during the coup. Not to talk about having any progress thereafter, immediately thereafter. Because we have seen many examples where countries, governments were devastated by these military indisciplines who have not dropped in to drop out. You have to drop in and be there before you can drop out. They have never dropped in, most of them. And I felt that really African or developing countries, governments for developing countries, should take a very, very decisive measure to carry out proper scrutiny when it comes to engagement of security services, including the army. And because what obtained was just announcement is made, and young people whose backgrounds are absolutely and totally unknown just go, and as long as they answer the criteria of running from Banjul to Serekunda or Barbikama, and running around Banjul, shouting, the streets of Banjul, causing lots of traffic commotions, that was not very good. And also, that fact is amply clarified in that the ones who had some form of formal education, good formal education, have always never been involved in this, piracy, democratic piracy. I mean, this is my feeling, and I still maintain that. To join these services, somebody should have a proper grounding, especially in education. Not to be professors and doctors and masters here and there, but at least to have a sound grounding so that, they will be able to comprehend what we refer to as constitutions and other laws and what have you.
You told the commission that in the early days, around the 70s, you were young and stubborn. In the 90s, I imagine that you were elderly and still stubborn. Did you just kept quiet about the coup itself, or what was being said of the PPP government which you served? Did you keep quiet about that?
Well, I will not take offense when you refer to me as stubborn, because I was the first to refer to myself as one time being stubborn. However, to answer your question, as someone who had clocked a number of years, not only in Parliament, but in the governance of this country, and who held various responsibilities as well in the party I belong to, I was well known, and at the time I was not a minister. I had a store, 2 or 3 stores, but the main one I was operating from was facing the ferry terminal. I felt betrayed, government, country, people. And of course, people, not many of us were around with a fixed abode, fixed place where you can find them. We know each other, but we don't know everybody's compound. But I had a fixed place where I was always from 8:30 to 6. So people were coming there and talking the following week or so. And of course, this included the press people, and one of them came and, asked if I can be interviewed. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, we want to ask you a few questions." I said, "Fine, go ahead. If I can answer them, I will try." And then, of course, he referred to the outbursts of the junta leaders over the media about the negative sort of governance that the First Republic provided to the country. Lots of queries. I did not call them by name, but I merely said that I cannot be true to my conscience if I fail to appreciate the efforts of the First Republic. Not that I was a party to the governance, but that these were evidenced by actual, factual, related objects in the form of buildings, roads, and the like. And I mentioned quite a lot. I think the offending part of it may be, because I was questioned after a couple of arrests, is the point where I referred to the establishment of the army and the gendarmerie. I said, in fact, among the developments I have mentioned, I should also say the army and the gendarmerie were created by the First Republic. And that has provided a platform. I think that was the offending part of the interview. I picked up the next day.
Before we get to that, do I understand you to mean that months after the coup, you gave a press interview in which you touted the achievements of the Jara government, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, but not months, just weeks.
And in that press interview, you indicated that amongst the achievements of the Jawara government was the establishment of the army, which in fact gave these soldiers a platform to overthrow the government, right?
Yes, I said so.
What other achievements of the Jawara government did you mention in that interview?
Well, a lot of achievements, because I said, I quoted the road, Basse Mansakonko, Tar Road, Mansakonko, Basse, at that time, gravel, later made into a tar road. I quoted the ferry services. Previous to that, there was one wooden mechanical ferry for Banjul's Barra, built by Mr. Cox, a shipwriter, a white man. That was the only one. At the time, it can only take one vehicle, and not disarticulated. 1 5-ton, 10-ton lorry was the maximum weight it can carry, and cars, one at a time. I quoted that. I quoted Willy Tenda, Bamba Tenda. I quoted the hospitals, schools. Previously, I said there was only one high school in Georgetown for the provinces, and there were about 2 or 3 primary schools, and they were owned by the missionaries. 3 or 4, maybe the Catholic mission, the Anglican mission, the Wesley mission. I said that, and many others, which are facts. I told them that as a schoolboy, I used to take 5 days to get to Basse. That's why during holidays in those days, school children cram up at the marine to use the steamers. We had 2 steamers for cargo, minor cargo and passengers, and 1 VIC-20 for cargo, purely. So those used to take 3 days. But road transport used to take 5 days. No bridges, no courses, nothing. I mean, there's a catalogue of progress. And I did mention also that the previous government, which is supposed to be useless, inherited a grant-in-aid economy. For those who don't know what grant-in-aid is, this used to be an annual exercise of the British government, Gambia government, during budget period, to underwrite or to provide all the shortfalls in fact. It was given with strings. In other words, they did not stop at helping us to balance our budget by the grant in aid, but they will also point the projects they want to have priority of their money. So, and many others, because I was a living witness, not only a witness, but a participant. So I knew what I was talking about.
So in that newspaper, you pretty much debunked the argument of the junta that the PPP government did not bring any meaningful development in Gambia. Is that right?
Correct, because I don't think it would have been fair to let that just go like that.
Was that interview or was that rebuttal received with favor? What happened?
That is what landed me into.
Can
that
you
was
tell
the
us
beginning
about it?
of my sorrows.
Can you tell us about it?
Well,
how they first reacted to that?
I was picked up and taken to Banjul police station for some weeks. No charge, no visitors. And during officers coming in and out, and so-called intelligent people come and sit and have a chit-chat with you. My interview was always focal, was always mentioned. And after some time, I believe they decided to release me, only to rearrest me again and again and again.
Let's now focus on the first arrest. You said you were taken to Banjul police station. Were you told what crime you committed?
Not directly, no. In fact, I wouldn't remember the ones, several of them, the CID used to come in and out, talk to you about 2-3 minutes and go, because it was a small community and people knew people. So, but not officially, no charge, no, just after weeks, just asked me to go and to be of good behavior.
Do you recall who arrested you?
I think One of them was Inspector Jata. I knew him before, but I wouldn't know the names of the others. But he has, on more than one occasion, led the arrest at my premises.
When you were arrested, did the officers do anything else to you or your property during this period?
Yes. The first search to my property was done during the first encounter, led again by Inspector Jata, inspector or sub-inspector, but certainly he had khaki uniform. He was not wearing that, but I knew him as that. Now, they just come, no warrant, no anything, that we have come to search your premises. They ransacked my Hopkinton property. I had 2 wives there. Ransacked my own room, took away several papers and some books. I remember I missed 2 or 3 which I was fond of. They never returned them. They returned very little number. And they proceeded, asked me, well, they know. They said, where are these your only houses, your wives? I said, no, I have 2 in Congo. They put me in their vehicle and we came to my first property. Now it's called Danfodio Street. My wife, late Jama Jan, was there. They ransacked the place. She was crying, just like my Banjul wives. From there, they went to Kairaba, opposite police station. Ransacked, Ma'am Tut was there, ransacked. Because unlike men, we have few belongings. We are not fond of amassing clothes and jewels and what have you. But women, at that time, each of them had 2 wardrobes. And if they came to this commission, they will say, they pick piece by piece, shake it and dump it on the ground. And when they leave, they leave with a pile of clothing. And they recorded all the cutlery, plates, what have you, and everything, and took with them. On 2 occasions. The first one was just my premises in Banjul and my premises in Combo. The second one, they included a store I had in Hill Street, at the end of Hill Street, and my office.
Thank you very much for that clarification, sir. For now, let's just focus on the first search. When they did the search, you said they went away with documents and books. Did they give you an inventory of the items that they were taking away with them?
I asked them, they never. They said, no, they have nothing to do with it. They're just looking for something. They never told me what, but they never.
So here they came, they never gave you a warrant?
No.
You said?
Never.
They searched your premises or they ransacked your premises as you described it, and they took books and documents. They never gave you a receipt for the items taken or an inventory of the items taken, correct?
Exactly.
And then, did they ultimately return the items that were taken from you?
On one occasion, very scantily, I can't remember. And when I told them that whether they listed, they said, no, when we were taking them, we never had a list. So when we bring them, we don't have to have a list.
As far as you can recall, did they give you back all the items that were taken away from you?
Far from that. Never.
Your detention at the police station in Banjul, where were you sleeping?
I was at the police station there. You know, they have a cell with common criminals and suspects. Dark, smelly, damp.
For how long did you have to be in that cell?
Some weeks. At that time, the tempo of events and the nature of maltreatment and anything that is good was so rampant that if somebody had asked me this question just a few months after, maybe I would not have been able to answer it as I am doing now. After the dust has settled, pick up the pieces and so on, one is more composed.
How did you feel at that time, being treated in that manner?
Humiliated, dehumanized, disgraced, taking into account my background, my efforts in the promotion of development in my country as one of the pioneers when there was nothing, considerable respect in the community, length and breadth of the country, to be treated in this manner by people I can father, some of whose parents benefited from good services of my government. I felt very badly.
That certainly wasn't the last time they came. You said you were released after a little while. Did they come again another time?
Yes, they did.
Precisely 2 months later, wasn't it?
Yes, something like that.
Can you tell us what happened when they came a second time?
They did exactly what they did before. The only addition was that I had an adjacent store, 93 by 35 feet, still there. They went there and looked, searched, came to my office where everything started. I still have that little office below my store building. Everything started there in the early 60s. And the searched. They did not take anything from the store, but they noted the large quantity or huge quantity of spades that were there. And, but in the office, they picked up some papers, because I had a shelf on the right side where I had some papers, because as a former minister, as a minister of government, after you leave, sometimes you can have permission to retain certain quantity of cabinet papers, or after a period when they are bound, you can be allowed to have a copy. And some other papers relating to my constituency, my business, and so on. That they just take. I really don't know what the quantity they took. But they left the books, they did not take many.
On this particular occasion, were you given a search warrant?
No search warrant. They just rain on you. No notice, no search warrant, no order.
Did they take an inventory of the items? Did they take an inventory of the items they were going to take away with them?
No, sir. No inventory.
Were you given a receipt of the items that they took away with them?
No receipt.
On this particular occasion, were you also arrested?
On the second occasion, yes. I went to I was taken to the police station, and same cells, everything. And some came and told me, those quantity of space you have, there's allegation that they belong to the Ministry of Works, PWD, and being former minister there was your last ministry. But not written, no statement was made. I told him that is nonsense. I said, anyway, if you allow me time. He went up, came back, and I believe he had permission. I was taken to the house, opened my office. I had the dossier, it was written and not locked. I took out the dossier. I bought them from UK, closing down store. I had every paper, everything. And we went back to the police, and he reported. Then I think one or two senior officers was there. I told them, by the way, I will want to educate you. the meaning of spades and shovels. They are different. I sort of sketch. As a spade, they have a flat end. These other ones, have a sort of a sharp end. And PW never, ever orders this type. These are smaller. They order these shovels. But I say for Gambia, well, of course, we coin our own meanings and apply them to the objects, not the generalized or standard. We have our own.
Do I understand you, sir, to mean that they were looking for shovels, but you had spades, yes, and they thought your spades were in fact shovels?
Stolen from PWD. That's what that. That was the end of the matter. It had never ever been raised again. I think I still have the papers.
On that particular occasion, did they also detain you in cells?
Yes.
For how long were you in those cells?
It was lesser, maybe 1 week or so, I don't know. It was lesser than the previous one.
During this 1 week period, did they take you before a magistrate? Did they take you before a magistrate during this 1 week period?
Never. No.
Were you granted bail during this 1 week period?
They just release you.
No warrant of arrest, nothing. No. How about a lawyer? Were you granted access to a lawyer?
Specifically, that was because normally when one is in trouble of this nature, the first thing you think about is your family and the lawyer. Categorically, I was told in no uncertain terms, no lawyer will be accepted to visit.
How about your family? Were they allowed to visit you?
Correct.
Did you consider this to amount to violations of your right at this period?
Well, I believe since the panoply of creation, they would have always been regarded as the most terrible violations of human rights.
You were detained in these cells, you said, with common criminals. It was filthy, smelly, damp and dark. Apart from the fact of your detention at this stage, this second time, did they do anything to you?
No, not in both occasions. They did not beat or torture.
Do you recall whether there were any other people who were in detention who you know at this time?
Yeah, on one occasion, I think it was the second occasion, I found Wajwara, whom I knew very well.
Do you know his first name, sir?
Well, we call him Wa. I forgot his first name. He first served under me when he came back from Bulgaria. Some studies. I am very close with him, and he married his wife from Basri, one of our relations. But we just call him Wa, but I know he has a name. I think it's Lamin Wa. Lamin, Momodu or Lamin. Lamin, I think. But just Wa. But I think he's Lamin. Lamin, yes, Lamin, I think.
So we take it that you're referring to Lamin Wa Juara, right?
Correct.
Apart from him, do you recall any other person? On that particular occasion?
I think this was the occasion when Badu Faye and some others were also brought in. Either that one or a succeeding one. Badu Faye, yes, formerly of the Commercial Development Bank. And that one too, no arrest warrant, no search, no anything. But during official visits of some of the intelligence people, that the allegation was that I convened a meeting, anti-APRC meeting, at my residence in Fajara, opposite the police station. And that Badufai and one or two others who were there were among the people who attended that meeting, which was a white lie, big lie.
And after your release from this second incident, were you again arrested?
Yes, I was.
Can you tell us about it?
Late Hamoudi Diab is a younger brother Raif, who was my classmate, both of brilliant memory.
Raif what? What was his last name?
Diab. He was elder brother to Hamoudi. At one stage, he closed his shop opposite Old Customs and went over and joined Hamoudi store. And we used to congregate in his shop. Now we moved over to Hamoudi. And I was told that, no, before that, one day while there, with late Asan Musa Kamara, Adam Sise, Tiyan Sallah, I think, I'm not sure whether Silabai was there, or so a lot of us used to come there and chit-chat. We saw hard noise coming from the Albert Macken end, Adonis end. We peeped out and saw people running. So somebody came, was running, said, "What is the matter?" He said, "They said there is a coup d'etat." Hamoudi closed, everybody went into your car. I think on that particular day, I don't know why, I did not bring my car. I came there in a taxi. Maybe one of my family members was using it. Edmond Coron, who was an employee of the Standard Chartered, he's still alive, was the one who gave me a lift to my house in Hopkinson Street and left. So in the evening, they came and picked me up and took me. This time they employed a lot of harsh language. They didn't beat me, but they employed a lot of harsh language. And alleged, like previous occasions, that the allegation is that I came to the roundabout on the Makati Square side, just turning, going to the Albert Market. I came there in my car. I was driving slowly and asking the people to close, businessmen, close down, there is a coup d'etat. And that was why people were running. There was big confusion in Banjul. And they kept me there. I also found Wajora there. Later, I think a day or 2 or 2 days later, Ma Bojang, who was the senior police officer, he's now, I think, a chief or a magistrate. He was the officer in charge of the station. He comes around and goes. Somebody came and said that I was peddling coup rumors. And when Hassan Musa and the group came to visit me, they allowed them to come because Hassan was a former vice president of many years standing. He was an elder statesman, no blemish, nice man. Maybe because of him, they allowed the whole bunch. And Hassan asked, I told him. Then he shouted. He was very rough with Mambo Jang is a very good, well-disciplined officer, the police, because Hassan really did not insult them, but he was very rough with them. He said, this man, we were with him. In fact, he did not even go home by himself. He didn't bring his car. It was Edmond Coron who was among them, who drove him home. How can you say that he went round peddling? I said, Hassan, these people are after me. Is it my business to advise? What interest have I got with traders and businessmen? Why should I waste my time asking them that they still close down? What interest do I have?
Did they release you after that information was received?
No, there's some time and they released me.
Do you recall for how long long you were kept there?
Maybe about 10 days, or I don't think it will be more than 10 days.
Let's try to situate this on time. Was it still in 1994, or was it after 1994?
After.
This must have been early 1995, correct?
Yeah, well, sometime in 1995.
That's right. On this particular occasion, were you served with a warrant of arrest?
No.
Were you allowed to talk to a lawyer?
No.
Were you allowed family visits?
No. The ones who came, Asan and others, that was.
On this particular occasion, you said you found Wajuara there. You referring to the same Lamin Wajuara?
Yeah, it was 7 times, yes.
Do you know what he was detained for this time?
No.
On this 10-day detention, were you also put in the cells?
Yes, but when these people came, we were allowed. I was out and met them, spoke to them. They were there for a while, maybe